Achieving that professional finish with silicone sealant is something people think is really hard to do. I'll be showing you the type of silicone I use, the techniques I use, and the tools that I use to get the professional finish every single time. So that by the end of this video, you'll all be able to apply leak-free and great-looking silicone sealant. First thing we need to do is get the edge of the bath nice and clean. I'm just going to use one of these trade wipes and I'm going to wipe around the edge of the bath. So I'll give that a good wipe all the way around the bath and just get off any grime or any old silicone, anything like that. And then I'm going to use a bit of blue roll and I'm just going to wipe any of that moisture off the surface. Now choose a good quality silicone sealant. I'll put a link down below for these in the description. This is Dow 785. You can get it in white, you can get it in clear, and you can get it in colours as well. These guys haven't sponsored this video. This is just the product I've been using for years, and using my technique to apply it, you won't get any mold buildup either. First thing we're going to do, cut the top off. Just take the top off the tube. Now before we cut our nozzle down to size, we're going to take a look at the profiling tool that we're going to be using to apply our silicone, because that is going to dictate where you want to cut the nozzle. So the first tool we're going to be using today is the Silicone Block by Metex. Now this Silicone Block may look a very simple little tool, but it is highly effective. Now the guys at Metex are sponsoring this video and they sent me some of these to use, and since I've been using it I haven't looked back. I'll be showing you why later in the video, and there'll be links to these down in the description below. Before using the Silicone Block, I always used to use these, the Kramer Fuji kit, and in there you get a lot of these little silicone forming tools to give you lots of different shapes with your silicone. So I'll show you both tools and how they work. But the first thing we need to do is cut the nozzle down to size. The size of the nozzle depends on the tool we're using, and if we look here, we can match the size of the tool up to the nozzle by just moving the nozzle up and down. There's two sizes of profile on the Silicone Block. The 6mm is the one we're using today. So I'll cut the nozzle down to the size of the Silicone Block profile so we get plenty of silicone around the edge of this bath. And you can see we've got a nice angled cut on the tube. Now I'll pop the tube in my silicone gun, and before we start we want plenty of blue roll, and we need some detergent mixed with water in a squirty bottle. It doesn't have to be fairy, any washing up liquid will do. And because it's a bath I'm siliconing, I'm filling it up with water. Filling a bath with water before you silicone around it is a bit of an old school technique, and what it's supposed to do is stops the silicone cracking, because if you've got the weight of a person and water, that's quite a lot of weight in a bath, and if the bath drops or the side of the bath bows with all that weight, what it could do is crack the silicone. However, if a bath is fitted properly and well on its battens with modern day silicone, that is very, very rare. It's never going to happen. But we'll do it anyway, because some of you might not know how well your bath's been installed if you're re-siliconing. So the bath is 2/3 full, and now I'm going to apply some silicone to my first joint, and then I'll show you the first little tip and the thing that most people get wrong. Starting from the corner, move the nozzle in so that it's at an angle across the corner and gently squeeze, and in one motion we want to do a nice smooth bead of silicone along that joint. Just like that. I'm going to do that all the way around the bathtub, and when you get to the taps, what you're going to find is the taps are always the most difficult bit. So if you've got taps to go around, take your time and just do your best. They're not going to look pretty to start with. So we've got a nice full silicone bead around the bath. Doesn't matter if it's pretty at this stage, you just want to make sure there's plenty in there and it's going to reach your profile. Where I see loads of people go wrong is they grab soapy water and then they spray the silicone, and then they use their finger to wipe along that silicone. Now there's a few issues with that. First one, your finger concaves the shape of the silicone, and it makes the edges of the silicone weak, and it holds dirt and grime, and that is why primarily you get mold buildup on silicone, especially in high moisture areas like a bath like this one. The other problem is when you spray the surface of the silicone, as you push the silicone into its profile shape, it doesn't actually stick to the tiles, the bath, or whatever's behind it. Because as you can see here, anywhere where there's soapy water on the surface, silicone can't stick. And you get a little microscopic area where water and grime can build up, and that causes failures and leaks over time. One of the other common things that we need to avoid is people lick their finger and then smooth silicone out. Well, guess what? There's loads of bacteria. We definitely don't want to be doing that. So what we want to do, grab a silicone block and just spray that with some soapy water, just like that. The bottle's not very good, but there we go. Nice soapy silicone block. The silicone block actually has instructions on the back. So it tells you to use a silicone gun, spray the block with water, and then slide the block in one direction. So that's what we're going to do now. Get lots of blue roll handy at this stage. You're going to need it. There'll be plenty of overspill. Oh, and at this stage, if you're not subscribed already, please do, because there's loads of videos like this coming up. And hit like for me, because that helps this video reach more people on YouTube. Let's profile some silicone. Take your time with this, there's no rush. You can see there, if we run the silicone block along in one direction, nice and smooth, keep the block nice and soapy as you go. Nice gentle pressure. And you can see all that overspill. Make sure you're taking that off as you go. Now we'll just give it one last tool up, just to make sure it's nice and smooth, and there you go. So the silicone block has made a lovely finish along that edge. Now what we're going to do is give the Kramer tool a try and see how that one does. This one has a few different sizes on it, but we'll use the 6mm to match the one that we just used on the silicone block. I'm using the Kramer tool in exactly the same way as I did the silicone block. Make sure you're getting rid of all the excess again as we go. Taps are always the worst bit. Silicone block normally on 90% of taps goes behind the back of it. I'll show you on one of the other taps. Because of the location of this tap, it's really close to the wall. I've just cut the Kramer tool in half so I can actually get behind this tap. Sometimes needs must. But I've managed to get what I think is a pretty good finish under there. Remember, before you use this, to let it cure. It'll always say on the back of your silicone tube how long you should leave this stuff alone. Nice, perfect, full joints with crisp, straight lines. Not only do they look great, but they stop leaks as well. They're effective, and that is the most important thing, because you don't want grime and you don't want them failing further down the line. And that is how I achieve the perfect finish on silicone every single time, thanks to profiling tools. They are key rather than these things. Which one would I choose between the silicone block and the Kramer? It's a hard one really. I think the silicone block, if you just want one tool to keep in the bag, then I'd definitely go with the silicone block. If I wanted something with a bit more complexity, maybe I'd go with the Kramer. But I think the silicone block is the better single solution for you guys to go and grab. I hope you've enjoyed the video. If you have, hit one of these because you're bound to enjoy them as well, and I'll see you guys in the next one.